Hello, Brian.
Hey, how are you, Eggman?
I'm
It's
very
time to
well.
talk ThunderCats. Welcome to another
Yes.
episode. We want more ThunderCats with your host, Eggman. I'm Brian Flynn, today's guest. Welcome to the show.
Super 7 ThunderCats, the heroes.
Brian, I know that we've got lots to cover and you are extremely busy.
Yes.
What do you have in store for our shelves this summer from our favorite IPs?
I've got a bunch of stuff in store for you. ThunderCats Wave 11 will go live next week on June 12th. So that's going to be exciting because everybody's like, well, when's the next wave of ThunderCats? Why are you not making any ThunderCats? What's my ThunderCats? Why are my ThunderCats? Are you going to make some ThunderCats? I'd like some ThunderCats. Will you make me some ThunderCats? So next week, you'll be able to see the next wave of ThunderCats.
That's fantastic.
So that's super exciting. There are stuff for San Diego is back again, but slightly different. Beforehand, it was going to be in stock at San Diego, then it got pushed back, and now we're at a good place where I can go back and forth like this. And so we'll have an in-stock item for San Diego, plus we're going to have a special pre-order at San Diego for a cool item. Cool item.
Okay, that's
Like a little
exciting.
burst. It says cool item. It's very Japanese.
So did you confirm just now that there's going to be two items, one in stock and one pre-order?
I confirm that there will be an item in stock and a pre-order.
Okay, that's exciting. That's a way to kickstart this. So now with all these things in store, we can also rephrase in store as being physically in store. Now there's been some sightings of some ThunderCats and some other Super 7 items in retail chains. I know you've got your two stores as well, but we spoke about this quite a while back, and you discussed this also with somebody else. Are you guys still actively working at expanding your retail presence with other chains to
Of
have
course,
more of your items in
we're
stores?
always doing that. I think every toy company is trying to always expand their footprint. I would love to be in more places and make it easier for people. But yes, there is definitely some really cool stuff that we can't talk about yet. But when we start getting into the later part of this year, we're going to have a really cool thing to talk about
Okay.
making ThunderCats easier for everyone.
Okay, that's exciting. So there's been some new releases in terms of reaction for ThunderCats, and that's Wave 5, and we've got two lovely variants. One of them was a big surprise, but I'll get to that now. So in the past, we used to have waves of 3 and of, I think it was 6 or 4. I don't
Yeah,
remember.
it started out with 6, then it got to
Yes,
4,
yes,
3. This one was 2. What happened?
yes. What happened?
What happened? Well, it was part of that. It was actually a larger recolor wave of I think 5 figures. Did we do 3 in the last wave? Is that correct?
It was 3 before, and then it was the last
It was
2.
originally a wave of 5 that we ended up breaking up into 2 pieces simply because my sales team, different retailers, everybody was like, they just were like, fewer is a little easier for us right now than a bunch. Like bringing in 5 all at once and hoping somebody buys all 5 is a little bit more difficult on the shelf sometimes than, hey, let's break this up into, I'll bring in 3, I can sell through those 3, then bring me 2 more and we'll sell through those. So that's why that got broken up into 2 groups, but it was originally planned as like a larger group of 5. It was actually planned as a larger group of 6, but one of the figures fell off and then we were left with 5, and then I got broken up into 2 pieces.
So that one that fell off, is it getting back onto the wagon somewhere
It's
in the
not it's
future?
not back on the wagons right now. No.
Okay.
Right now it's standing by the side of the road with the little stick with the napkin full of food on there going, thumbs up, please somebody take me. No, it's not in a place where it can go forward. Conceptually, it did not work out.
Okay. The next wave of reaction figures, will they be variants as well, or would those be new characters?
I am I'm literally like diving into 26 right now, so I'm trying to remember what's coming out late 24. I believe we have a couple new sculpts as well as a couple recolors. So there are some new sculpts coming.
Okay, excellent. Now, Evil Mutant Mumra. His name was dropped on a pre-order with Big Bad Toy Store way back when it was revealed that this pre-order is coming. And then all of a sudden, you shared a lovely little email with everybody about the ThunderCats, and you had a little checklist in there, and then you revealed these two new figures, the figures from Wave 5. So this purple Mumra, he is obviously a character that was a vintage toy that never got released. He was on one of the art of one of the figures, and we saw him there in his purple attire. How did you decide to choose that evil mutant Mumra name? Because there was never a picture of him when we first learned of him. How did you decide on that name, and what's the story behind that?
I think we just sort of looked at a lot of the naming conventions of old toys, and we kind of bandied it about here in the office. And we're like, what would it have been named? What would it have been like? And then, it's like, Power Purple, or, there's all those. It's sort of like, what would they have said in the 80s? And a lot of times it's fairly straightforward. It's like web slinging Spider-Man. It's like, it's not like, it's fairly straightforward. If it was had it been the 90s, it would definitely have been like Arctic Freeze camo, or something like all those crazy Batmans that they made. And I think we just landed back at Evil Mutant, and we sent it over to Warner Brothers and said, this is what it's based off on. And they're like, makes sense to us.
Okay. So can
now
I
he's
congratulate
officially the Evil Mutant colorway.
Yes.
That's how it works.
That's fantastic. So who can I congratulate on giving us our first official purple evil mutant Mumra? And can we hope to see him in Ultimates one day?
It's very plausible. It's not on the calendar right now, but it's definitely plausible. As far as who to thank, I would say that we would want to thank the entire team, because it is a group effort, Egmont. So
Okay.
Josh, Kyle, Michael, everybody involved. We appreciate your attention and dedication.
Okay, awesome. Thank you, guys. Thank you. We're grateful. So talking about being grateful, Wave 8 arrived with collectors recently. And I had to check. The last time that I got new ThunderCats was when Wave 7 was sent out in December. And I got mine only like the second day of 2024. So it's been like almost 6 months waiting, and we've been so anxious about this, but they came, and Wave 9 is also just around the corner to start delivering. So of these 4 characters from Wave 8, which is your favorite and why? Do you know who's in Wave 8? Should I remind you?
I'm having to go back. I'm literally looking it up right now. Hold on. What did we deliver in Wave 8 again? I literally last night we were retweaking the line for Wave 12. So so there you go, everybody. You know that 12's on here. Wave 8, I think I would have to go with Alluro.
Any specific reason?
He's just a great character, and he's so as a toy, just the hunched tall shoulders and the sort of menacing look over. Like, I just really like him as a figure. Obviously, with WilyKit and WilyCat, there was the previous ones that were made, and here's our new versions. You knew that we were going to do them. That's fairly straightforward. So it's the weirder stuff we get into, the more interested I get. Does that sound wrong?
Oh no, not at all, because he's like a character that he's never been released. So actually getting him, it's really just, it's so exciting. So I decided, and I've learned this from you, so I have to say thank you. It is going to sound rather silly, but I wait until I get an action figure in hand before I actually comment on something, because we know that there's things like lights, things like angles, and all of that changes whatever you see in a picture online versus what you actually see when you hold it in hand. So I prefer to wait for these. So I know that especially with Alluro, he's a character that sometimes appears like he's massively tall, but all of these characters sometimes are in the cartoon, they are this size and then they are that size. They're basically all over the place. And you've mentioned it before that if you try to take a specific scene and you go according to that, he's not going to look like that because in the scene 2 minutes later, he's very different. So I wanted to find out from you, what is the process behind this, behind the scenes, when you go on and you determine the scale of a figure, and when does it feel right for you guys as the designers?
I mean, we output them and we look at them lined up. We try to get in there. There's specific height and then there's relative height. Like you can really, the easiest place to argue all of this is like, how tall is Lino supposed to be in proportion to Mumra? So you start there. Like, all right, well, in the official lineup, the police lineup sketch that they have, it's like, Mumra is a head and a half taller. He's not massively tall. But then most of the cartoon, Lionel's really looking right at his chest. Like he's much, much taller than Lionel. And so you start to get into this, like, what feels right? How does it feel when I'm lining them up? Like, to your point with Laura specifically, there are times where he's towering over everybody. And then there's other times where he's sort of like, I'm half a head taller than most everybody else. So we're also looking at like, manufacturing costs and everything else like that. And I'm not saying that in a super negative way, but I'm just saying is like, if I make him, some people are like, oh, Alluro should be as tall as Mumra. And it's like, well, if I start making Alluro as tall as Mumra, now he's going to be a much more expensive figure. And I don't think that that's naturally correct as well, but you can find, stills that would support that translation of him. So it's like, we were looking at, it's like, he needs to be taller, but he's not demonstrably Mumra taller. So what's something that's in between in there? So he's taller than everybody, but he's not radically taller. And at least when we were putting them all together, that felt really good. It felt like they familyed and that he didn't stick out unusually so. But I do understand that other people could differ in their opinion of that.
I mean, one thing, when you take a screenshot of him with his other Lunatic teammates, he is the tallest of them all, but he's not the bulkiest. So a character that like Tugmak or even Red Eye, they sometimes appear like they are bigger than him. Even though they are bulky, they actually do appear. There's one scene where I know that I was like, this can't be. But I mean,
like
Red Eye was bigger.
Red Eye is a
than
perfect
Alluro.
example of that. Exactly. Like Red Eye at some point is Incredible Hulk, and sometimes he is, a little bit shorter but much wider than Alluro. And it's like, well, what size is Red Eye?
Exactly.
I'm not saying that I've looked at that in any way, shape, or form, but
maybe in 11. We'll never know. We'll find out one of these days. Maybe not.
I can go on record and say that he is not in Wave 11.
Okay. He might be in 12 or maybe 13. We'll find out. I've got your number, Brian. I've got your number. I'll give you a call. So
you're not going to get anything from me.
Okay, that's fine. I won't call you. So in terms of him comparing to his other teammates, I mean, he would still be the tallest because generally speaking, he does look like he is the tallest one of them all.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm moving on to WilyKit. Now, she is like a standout for me. And I might be a little bit biased because she was my very first ThunderCat figure that I got as a kid. with Chitara, and I was like madly in love with this lovely, beautiful redhead, feisty, mischievous little cheek.
Yeah, you're
But
like, we want to be friends. I want to hang out.
yes, yes, definitely. Now, she is finally presented correctly. Like in her scale is spot on. That winking face of her, that was you have to have it in hand to actually see what it is like. That's just fabulous. Her accessories are on cue. So was it important for you to get the scale of WilyKit just right, especially when you compare it to the Magic Collector one? Now, I've had that one since 2016, but there's definitely a little bit of a difference if you look at them. So how important was it for you to deliver a correct WilyKit?
Well, I mean, I'm trying to make most everything correct. It's not like just correct, but I think it obviously, you know, I'm not going to disparage any of the stuff that Mattel made. It's great. It's wonderful stuff. So I think with us, it was just the same thing. It's like, if we're going to make this again, we need to improve it. Like, just simply remaking it's not enough. Like, where can we get better? Where can we be more accurate? Where can we be more interesting? What can we do? So I'm glad that you feel that we achieved that.
She's my favorite of the wave. She is fantastic. She's gorgeous. Thank you, thank you. She is really brilliant, and I know that she's selling out everywhere. She is extremely popular. So we'll get to that in just a minute. But I wanted to just say that she's the first child-sized figure, if you don't account for Snarf, in the ThunderCats line. So I know we've spoken about it before that there are some difficulties when you design smaller with everything being scaled correctly. But she's like set a new standard for these types of this scale. Are you more at ease now with the success of WilyKit?
I don't know if it's more at ease. I think you always have to be very cognizant and nervous of those small figures, and you know how small and thin, you know, they just end up starting to feel fragile. Like, you can sculpt it any way we want, but is it fragile? Is it going to break? Can it hold? Is there enough material to hold the tension? Like, literally on something like that, you have to go like, if how thin her ankles are, and you want to have that rocker motion or whatever, like, is there literally enough tension between enough material to hold together to support the weight of all the plastic on top of it without it starting to move? Like, those are all little considerations that you have to really get into the weeds on, where you try to make it look as accurate as possible, but you're also trying to be like, we need as much ankle here as we can. We need as much, especially the ankles and knees, because the whole weight of the figure sits on that. And even if, you know, you're like, it's a light figure, but when you start talking about tolerances of that much, you know, in an ankle, like, that's still, you know, I don't know, 10, 20 times the mass of that ankle sitting on it. Like, there's a relationship between strength and weight there, where the wrists can be a lot easier to get away with that stuff in. You have to worry about making sure that the hands don't pop off and everything, because there's not as much material gripping like the insert. So, you know, it can flex more because of how much tension and how much stiffness is in the plastic. Well, if that wall is thin, it's still going to wiggle a little, versus if that wall is thick, it's going to wiggle less. There's just a lot of little things that you have to do in those little tiny figures.
I'm
And hide
moving
it
on
as much as we can.
I'm gonna talk about Hachiman now. He has a rich
His sword is the
Japanese.
coolest, though.
Oh, his sword is amazing. That sword is so cool.
Yeah.
He's got rich Japanese or perhaps Oriental history in his design and his backstory as well in the cartoon. Were you drawn to this character, especially given your connection to this world where you have been collecting vinyl figures from for decades?
You know, there was not an overt connection to the Japanese or samurai influence in Hachiman for why we selected him. I think it was just it was one of those characters that just felt like we'd been overlooking him for a while, and he was past his due date. We needed to get him in there. You know, at the same time, when you're talking about something like Captain Shiner, I mean, we spent so much time discussing him, especially because, you know, he spends so much time like this. We're like, how are we going to do that? And ultimately I don't necessarily love the fact that they're static arms, but that's the only way to get that signature look from him. And it's like, you know, I'm like, I want to figure out how it does this. But the reality was, with the limitations of plastic, like when you do this for real, your bicep rolls, and, you know, this rolls down here, and, you know, your arms actually bending a little bit. There's things that happen that can't happen in plastic. And I'm probably the only one that's like, oh, I don't love the fact that this is a fixed pose. The feedback so far, while limited, that I've gotten has been that people really like it. But it drives me crazy that I know that it physically can't be done in plastic, but I want to be able to do it in plastic.
Okay. Well, I'll
Sorry
speak about that.
Hey ho! Hachiman's sword, though. That's the best. That's the best.
That effect, I thought it was actually part of the second blade. I never realized that it's removable. So that makes it even cooler. It's really, because I was trying to figure out, looking at this thing, I thought, how the hell did they paint the insides of this thing with this clear on the outside? And I was trying to figure, and then all of a sudden, just whoop, there it goes. I was like, okay, stupid me.
It slides off.
It slides off. Okay, did you ever consider giving Hachiman a helmet that's removable instead of the helmeted head?
Problem with removable helmets. Oh, this is a great one. So the way it looks on screen really takes into account that he has no head up here. So if I'm going to have a head that's realistic, the helmet has to then sit on, like his hair doesn't come down, things like that. Like the helmet has to sit, and then it sits on top of it. Plus it's plastic, and you've got certain thickness that you have to control the shape. It becomes oversized. It becomes gigantic. It doesn't really fit properly. If you think about the old LJN D&D figures, that removable helmet on the blue, I'm blanking on his name right now. He's blue and yellow. He has a removable sort of samurai style helmet. It's comically large. It's definitely dark helmet sized, you know? And so same thing here. If we were to make that as a piece that was removable, it would have to sit outside of everything else at the minimum, at the inside width, then the outside width. So you get these massive plastic helmets, where if you're putting it on in real life, like, you can squeeze these things on and your head and hair and everything morph down. It's not going to happen with these guys. And you can't get it that close. Like, that's why it's not removable, because that's where we started, and it's just like, yes, and now his helmet is this big, and it looks stupid. So it's like, no, here's the head with the helmet. So it looks correct, but if you were literally looking at it right now and go, where's the top of his head?
Oh gosh, I've actually
Underneath
got
that
his
helmet.
helmet. I've got his helmet somewhere over on that side. Okay, I am looking at it now. Let me just.
I'd really appreciate it if you'd come prepared, Eggman. It's
There
driving
it
me
is.
crazy.
Okay, I see what you're saying. Okay. That's actually what I thought, because I was thinking about the vintage LJN one. That helmet was a little bit oversized. It was just teensy bit, because it still had to go over that head. So
Yeah.
that is probably, I was just testing the waters to see if that was the reason.
Testing the what?
You had to tell me what it was, so I just didn't want to assume,
Yeah.
Okay, so with Hachiman, there's something that was visibly absent from his release, and that is the let me just get the correct name, because he's got two names. It's the Jade Dragon, or the double-headed Dragon of Doom. It's associated with him, and it's part of the Treasure of Thundera. Was there a reason you left it off? Are you planning to release it somewhere later down the line?
Am I planning to release it somewhere else down the I'm gonna give you a one-off pack with just the Jade Dragon. I don't know that it's I think at a certain point we focused on the sword more and we felt that the effect piece and being able to with the alternate hand where you could do that. I think there's just there at a certain point there's a million you can keep going and keep going and keep going. So no, there wasn't a distinct other than I think we have enough stuff. But
Okay.
I understand.
Okay. Okay. No, that's fine. Can
That's not fine for you.
no, that's here's the
You
next
understand the
question.
answer.
Can we expect to see more of the treasure of Thundera in the future, and even the actual chest where the treasure was in? So we still need a few of these items. Can we expect to see them?
I'm not gonna say never.
Okay, good. Thank you.
I'm not gonna say anything about the treasures of Thundera.
Okay. So
Not yet.
not yet. Okay. Now you already touched on Captain Shiner now with that iconic pose. But I wanted to just to check with you. This is the first time in ThunderCats that something like that is we've got it in SilverHawks and we've had it with other characters in other lines as well, where you could remove the arms. You discussed
Removing arms, yes, but not making the arms
not here.
fixed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So in terms of that pose of his, you discussed the other day about Lion-O with that iconic pose where he's got his hands like this. And because of the way that the figure is sculpted, that's not always entirely possible to get it like that. And you mentioned that it could be possible if you were to rework something here or to change a little bit there to try and get that. Is it an option to actually try and get with this feature where you can remove the arms to have a pose already
Oh,
done
there you are.
for with his arms like that, where you actually just plug those arms in there to get that pose?
No, because of how what happens up here. Because you would be if it's fixed plastic and it stops here, and I'm turning the delta, whatever. These muscles, I don't know. I don't go to the gym. Whatever this is, I turn it 180 degrees. It would be like your figure is here and then your arms are jutting straight out and coming out. You would need to adjust how this works so that you can get, this needs to collapse down to here, right here, where the edge of my shoulder, where those muscles start and the traps, I believe these are the traps, and those come up. So you've got to be able to bring that up and bring up the mass of the torso up as well. Not to say that we haven't talked about that.
The one thing that I find rather interesting about Captain Shiner is he's got a face that if you basically I see him in the pictures that collectors share, and I can actually hear him. That he's just got this face where you can see what he or hear what he was like in the cartoon, and that is quite an impressive feat. I mean, even with Allura, he's got, if you just look at that face, it's like you can just hear him. That is really amazing to me. Are you surprised that is something that the figures that they create this feeling, apart from, I mean, we've talked about what the LJN versions of your characters have evoked in terms of memories, but this guy is just like, he takes me straight to the cartoon. I could just see him in the scene where he acted like that or posed like this. Is that something that you expected?
I mean, I'm always hopeful that it can do stuff like that, that when people see it, they're mentally reliving the stuff and being in the moment with it. Am I surprised by it? I mean, I don't know if that's the right description of it. It's like, we're striving for that. We're striving to make these figures hit you on a lot of levels where you're like, oh my, here it is for accuracy. Here it is for emotion. Here it is for memory. It's like, if we do it right, it's going to bring a whole bunch of that stuff for everyone. So what you hear may be different than what somebody else sees. Somebody else may be like, oh, I can just see this. Or, or whatever. Yeah, I mean, I don't know a good way to answer that other than like if we're doing our job right, we should be able to do that regularly, hopefully.
Okay, well, it's definitely working. I was just surprised at how intense it was when you could I could people were posting stuff and I was like, I can hear this guy. It's like, wow, that is so cool. That's really fantastic and that's fun. That's the fun part of this line.
Yeah.
Now wave 9, like we said earlier, is gonna ship any day now. We
Yes.
started shipping. Can we talk about this after it's been delivered? I'd like to just delve a little bit deeper
Can we talk about it
into.
after it's been delivered? Of course we can talk about
Okay,
it after delivered.
excellent. So we're gonna jump. We're not even gonna talk about Wave 10. I'm assuming that everything is still on track. The pre-order shows is still perfectly fine, coming out later in the year. So
Yep.
we'll jump that one to Wave 11 that you mentioned is out very soon.
Out in a couple days.
Yes.
Breaking news. ThunderCats Wave 11 coming next week.
Awesome. Now you have
That's it.
already.
That's going to be your Instagram clip right there. Bonk.
Now you've dropped several hints about Wave 11 in previous interviews.
I may
So
have.
you have already just confirmed that the Red Eye is not in Wave 11. You
That
have
is correct.
also
I have confirmed that Red Eye is not in Wave 11.
you have also confirmed that Safari Joe is not in 11 or in 12.
I have confirmed that Safari Joe is not in 11.
Yes. We've got a list that we have to tick names of which ones, it's like Clue. You have to try and figure out what
I
is
think
what.
Safari Joe is not in 11.
No. And then in an earlier interview with me, you mentioned that there is a Burble possibly in 11. Is that still the case?
It's very possible. That would be,
Okay.
I think you'd get good odds in Vegas on that.
Okay.
Um,
Okay. I'm a betting
I'm
man.
not sure. I'm not sure that they're actually posting odds for what comes out in the next wave of ThunderCats. But if they were, that's a solid bet. I think
Okay.
that there's a Burble of some sort.
So will Wave 11 also include a super pack?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. That's exciting. So now we've established this in terms of the first few waves, that a bunch of them were over-ordered in bulk. That's why some of them are still in stock at select retailers.
Yep.
But the more recent waves, they are actually more reflective of the demand for these figures.
I think they're not reflective of, I think they're under.
Okay, because there's, like I said to you earlier, there's several characters that has been sold out on Entertainment Earth, on Big Bad, and it's unlikely that these characters are ever going to come in stock again. What advice do you have for collectors who are expecting to wait around for discounted figures in the future?
Once again, I don't want to feel like the heavy here, but it's like, if you want that figure and you pre-order it, whether it's from us or a partner, you're going to get it. If you're hoping to wait to see if somebody else has got it, the chances these days are very slim that that's going to be the case. And I think that you're going to see it with these last few waves. Just because the analogy that I have to use is like, say we're riding the wave and the wave crested and that was too much. The wave immediately goes to a trough, which is too little. Then the wave comes back up to normal. I believe that we're headed into normal, but I believe that what you're going to see, especially from the last year and a half, is that you're going to see the trough of the wave. And I think that there's going to be a lot of people that it's just, these products simply aren't going to be available.
Yes.
And, I'm not trying to be a jerk about it or anything, and I'm not trying to make it difficult, but it also is like, to get the factory up and running, you've got to have a certain level of quantity. And so the disparity between the people that are looking for it and the people that pre-ordered, the disparity is not enough for an all new production run, but it's still a decent sized gap. And I think that's, so I would urge people not to be a salesman, but if you want to collect these figures, place the pre-order. If you place it for me, you get the super pack. And yes, you have to pay early, but there's plenty of places online that you can place your order with and not have to put down a deposit if that's what's keeping you back. But if you don't sign up for the figure when it's available and you're betting on it to show up at the end, there's a decent chance that that's, the house always wins. So if you're gambling that it's not going to be there, there's a decent chance it's not going to be there.
So that's one thing
not trying to be, like I said, not trying to be a salesman, but just that's the reality. It's like, I want to collect these, but I'm not going to buy them. That sort of, those two forces are, I'm losing the word. I wanted to say discongruent, but that's not even a word. They don't go together. One of the two things is going to happen. Either you're going to collect them or they're not going to be available.
Yes.
And that's the crux.
So the bottom line, I've had some collectors get in touch with me saying that they are more inclined to rather now get these figures directly from you, pre-order them when the wave goes up, because then they are secured with these figures. They don't have to worry about pre-order selling out with other retailers, or having orders even cancelled because of whatever problem could be on that end. What is your take on this? Are you happy to hear feedback that people are not just because of the super pack, but because they want to feel secure?
I'm happy that people are getting the toys they want. I don't want to make it hard, but people are trying to ascribe larger market dynamics or any number of other things to what all this is. And the reality is, when this all comes back down to it, we're talking about across almost all collector segments. Even the biggest collector line you can think of, like what's the hot, like if we take a step back and we go, what is the hottest collector product out on the market right now? Probably G.I. Joe Classified. And it has what? The hottest thing for collectors has 2-3 spots at Target and Walmart on the shelf. That's it. Like, so even the biggest version of toy collecting is still tiny compared to the world of actual people making and selling toys. So then anything smaller than that, like, the reality is no one ever believes me when I say this. The number of people buying this is actually much smaller than you think it is. Just because you know all of them and talk to all of them, you feel like it's everyone. The reality is it's a much smaller group. So when that moves a little bit, like, I'm sort of losing a little track even here myself. But the point being is that I don't want to make it hard for you, but I can't make 10,000 of these things and have them just laying around. I'm just using that as an arbitrary number. Nobody ascribed meaning to it. But if they're just going to lay around, they're not going to magically start selling a year from now. Like, there's a finite amount of people that want them, and then the cliff ends. Everything above that, after that cliff, doesn't matter what the price is, there's probably not anybody for it. So if you pre-order, we know the size of the cliff. If you're expecting to be on the other side of the cliff, the chances are, everybody's gotten smarter about what they're ordering. And to your point, where they're missing out on pre-orders is that, definitely, because I've heard it from retailers, is they'll say, all right, I'm using, once again, round numbers for an example. Say I got 1,000 pre-orders for this. I know that my attrition rate is 20%, so I will order 800. Well, if all 1,000 people hold that order, 200 people got shorted. Because those people are making projections against fan demand. Now, sometimes they do the same exact opposite, where they say, I've got 1,000 pre-orders, but I really believe in this product. I think that they're under ordering. So I'm going to buy 1,500 pieces, so I have 500 more to sell when it arrives and people show. We know as a company, and I think everybody knows, that when the toy is actually in hand, there is more sales demand. But you're taking a risk at that point. So if a retailer doesn't want to take the risk, then there isn't going to be overstock. It's that simple.
Makes sense. Makes sense. So,
Somebody's taking
people,
the risk.
get your pre-orders in.
So get your pre-orders today at super7.com.
That's it. Talking about Super7, you have had an unfortunate. Oh, it's unfortunate. There has been a ghostly apparition somewhere that one day just appeared on a screen of a certain retailer, and then I just want to talk about that ghostly version of a figure that is not yet the final version, and I'm talking about Ghost Group. So, you have addressed that recently, just a little bit, and you said that in a previous interview that there won't be a ThunderCats release anymore, and that you're going to have to tell me. And I'm still waiting for the phone call, and my phone has never rung, and I'm actually glad it didn't, because it's not cancelled anymore. We're getting the pre-order. So, do you want to spill any more beans on Ghost Group?
Not yet.
Not yet. Okay. June is usually the month when things start appearing online, or where we get teasers. Is that still the case, or is it next
For
month?
San Diego?
Yes.
I mean, we start sometimes in June, start teasing a little bit. I mean, it'll start in earnest in July. But yeah, you'll see some stuff.
Okay. It's going to be a great month for ThunderCats, especially with Wave 11 coming up, and then
It's gonna be a great year for ThunderCats. It's not gonna be a great month. It's gonna be a great year for ThunderCats. And 2025 is gonna be an amazing year for ThunderCats. And I'm working on 2026 right now. So there's ThunderCats. We got lots more to do.
Excellent. So with ThunderCats, there's this big thing that's coming out. Let's quickly touch on Cat's Lair. You've already
I wish I had an image. I wish I had an image to share with you. I know that we're supposed to share the box art, which we for some reason haven't done yet, but we will. I know I've talked about that before. We've got it. I know it's on a calendar someplace, and I will get you when the box art's going to be revealed, because it's done and finished. And then I should have some. We're really hoping to have some good prototype photos to share pretty soon as well. I'm looking off into my brain here, off into space, like, all right, what's the last email that I got about this and that? Yeah, so I'm hoping that we have, because the same thing, if it's too early in the pre-production stage and we start showing images, people start, but what about, it's like, working on it. Like, so we should be able to share some of those images soon, and then packaging image definitely very soon.
Okay. Will we see anything of the Lair at Comic-Con?
No, we will not have anything for the Lair at Comic-Con.
Okay.
I'm sorry, but we will not.
Okay, that's fine. Now, talking about
the tone in your voice was, that's not fine, but I'll accept it.
You know me too well. I have to just be polite about things like this, Brian.
Be polite about things. No, damn it, Brian. It needs to be there. What's wrong with you? We showed up last year. It needs to show up this year. I don't care what state it's in. Bring it on. That's what. Okay. That's the inner Eggman that he's being polite about.
That's the one that's going to call you after the interview and have that conversation with you off camera. So, talking about that ultimate display setting, there are several other things that we get with a purchase of an ultimate sphere, and that is all the extra heads and the extra hands and accessories, weapons and stuff like that. Usually these extra items end up in a Tupperware or in a tub or something in the closet. Have you ever thought about offering something where we can actually display these items on, like a little, I know there's a head peg thing stand where you can put your heads on. Have you thought about doing something like that?
We've had some people ask about stuff like that. It's sort of tricky. When I look at most people's collections, I don't necessarily people lining up the figure with all the stuff in front of them. There's definitely some people that do, like, here's all the parts around the figure. What I generally see is people taking their favorite pieces and then displaying that in group with other things. The idea of like having a figure with like a display stand that sits behind it, where you can put heads and hands and different things on it. Obviously that's completely possible. And I think it's something we've discussed, and we've had several people ask, and sometimes with very detailed ideas of what they think that should be. It's not really on the plan right now. I don't know. I go back and forth would people actually use it? Would that be, oh, that's really neat, but I don't need it, quite frankly, because of how much space it will take on my shelf. Like if we did that for every one of your figures, it would take more than double the amount of shelf space you have right now. It would probably go to 2.5 times. And is that something people are really looking for? And then are you going to have a rack in front of another figure on your shelf because it's behind that? Not really. Or then you're just going to have a whole bunch of racks in the back. My concern, if you will, concern may be the wrong word, but just my fear is that it's great in theory, but probably not really good in pure execution from a display standpoint. I could be wrong, and there's probably some people in here for sure that think, well, that's exactly what I want to do, of which is completely valid. I think I just don't see it being adopted at a very large way. Maybe I'm wrong. I mean, feel free to chime in and do an unofficial poll with Eggman or anything else like that. Maybe I'm incorrect in my assumptions of how people want to display and have their characters, but I generally feel like they like to set them up either, stair step so they can see them all, or in a dynamic pose interacting with each other, and far less about figure and all the stuff, rather than picking the stuff they want and making their favorite version of the figure. Once again, I'm happy to be wrong though.
Well, I mean, as you can see, I've got my figures here all displayed together. But I recently, we talked about it a while back, has gotten rid of my boxes. I threw them all out, cut the art out. But I had all of my extra heads and hands and everything in a tub in the closet, and I felt so bad about it because there's so many cool expressions on those faces and so many additional weapons with of the same different versions of the same weapon that I felt so bad hiding them in the closet. So I came up with a little display. That's where my extra Hachiman head is, over there on that side.
Over there.
It's right over there. I'll pan the camera a little bit, but anyway. So no, I'm actually excited to have these on display because I get to see a little bit more of the offering, or the figures that I've got, and all the
there's
all the lovely
storytelling.
elements.
Like you look at those accessories and you remember a storyline or a moment within the show, and I think that's what it's meant to evoke.
Exactly. So, SilverHawks, you are offering a different silver kind of guy, and that is of course Darkbird. He's up now for pre-order with Big Bad.
Yeah.
I bugged you about this guy the first time that we talked about SilverHawks, when you announced Wave 1 back in the day. It feels like 700
Yeah.
years ago. But I'm so
It was.
excited. I'm so excited to finally have this character available for pre-order. I know it's a one-off character. He appeared once in the toon, but it's an important character for me. It's like in Moto you've got Faker, in ThunderCats you've got Mirror Lion. So we finally have Darkbird, and I wanted to check with you. Did you ever consider including him in a normal wave, or was it because he is so different that we could have him stand on his own?
No, we talked about Darkbird early on, but I just felt like because he's, it's Quicksilver, it's so similar that it feels like, even though he's a good character, he feels, I hate to call him like a recolor, but you know, it's that same thing where it's like, you know, it feels like I'm wasting a spot in a wave to fill it with somebody that's very similar to the regular character. You know, it's the head and a few accessories. You know, it's not dramatic. And so I felt like, yeah, he needs to have his own little moment, but he's not necessary for everybody. If you really love that character and you want him, great, you can get him. But am I going to take out, you know, Bluegrass and instead give you Darkbird? I don't think that that's a fair swap. If you make, you know,
Yes.
that again, I would never swap Bluegrass for Darkbird.
No. Okay. So, when will we have the next wave of 4 figures for SilverHawks?
I can't remember anything anymore. As you know, anybody that's ever watched any of my interviews with Eggman, as I always have to go and look at the calendar because, like I said, I'm starting to plan 2026. So I've got to figure out when am I doing stuff. It is in August.
August. Okay.
August.
Cool. Cartoon.
Can't tell you.
Okay.
I'm just telling you August right now.
Okay.
Yes, cartoon is generally what we do, but I'm telling you, it's August. Not going to say any more about it other than SilverHawks are coming in August and ThunderCats are coming next week. So let's focus on ThunderCats.
Fantastic. So, wave 4 of SilverHawks is started shipping out. I'd like to talk to you about this a little bit later when I get mine.
Okay.
But did they turn out to you as you expected them, or better?
No, I think they're better than I thought they were. Quite honestly, they've turned out great. They're phenomenal.
Okay.
PHENOMENAL.
Okay. Awesome. Okay. That's great. Now I've lost my story.
Should I do it like a rap? PHENEM. Or like a cheer. That's it. It needs to be like a cheer. Give me a PHENEMONAL. Go SilverHawks.
Awesome. Phenomenal. So,
Yeah.
So we'll talk about the new shiny SilverHawks next time.
Yeah.
But like I said, we've got lots more to talk about. And there's lots more happening this month and next month for ThunderCats. Is there anything that you want to leave us with? Parting words, drop a bombshell or something, get us all excited.
I've got all my bombshells, but I'm saving them right now. Saving them. We've got some cool news for ThunderCats that I think will be very exciting for people. And we've got a lot of plans for it. So I think there's really, I think, going to be some cool, exciting stuff to talk about. It's not just going to be more of the same. There's a lot more expansion of the world of ThunderCats is what we're working on. So everybody get ready.
Okay. That's awesome. That's awesome. Okay. So I'm excited. You're excited. Everybody's going to be excited.
I'm always excited when we talk. I get an hour to talk about toys. This is the best meeting of the day, Eggman.
Excellent. Thank you. Brian, thank you so much for taking your time. I know you're very busy, like I said, and you've got some busy moments coming up in the next few weeks. So I'm going to let you go.
We're going to talk in a couple weeks when you get your next wave of SilverHawks.
Yes.
There's some ThunderCats en route, and then we've got some ThunderCats about to come out. We got a lot to talk about in just a very short amount of time.
Excellent. Well, we'll be catching up again soon. Thank you so much, Brian, and take care.
All right, take care, Eggman.